So welcome, Nikhil. Welcome to the podcast. Delighted to have you on.
Delighted to be here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So
You're actually
you're
in the
in
spot.
our studio in Balbriggan.
Mm-hmm.
What's the weather like there today?
It's a little cloudy. There was some light showers that came, but we just got bikes, so I might go for a small bike ride if it clears up just a little bit, but doesn't look too promising. So, but yeah.
This is
Are you
actually
enjoying Balbriggan so far?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think that a change of space and scenery always sort of allows me to kind of just like unlock a different part of myself and stuff like that. I love sort of changing my surroundings and see what happens. But we were in Dublin for about a month, and I think that being in the city center and then all of a sudden now switching to something a little bit in a slower pace is nice. But oh my gosh, you can't beat that Balbriggan beach. You can't. No, you can't. You can't beat the coffee cart that we go to in the train station. You can't beat that.
shout out to Java the Hood Coffee.
Yeah, Java the hot coffee. I'll a flat white all the time. Here we go.
It's actually quite strange, Nikhil, because you're in the spot where we usually are. I think Donald's in a few podcasts from his house. This is the first time I haven't been sitting where you're sitting.
That is.
So you're in our spot.
That's funny. I mean, these times are kind of crazy. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
So
musical chairs are all just sort of revolving around, and wherever we are, we are.
yeah, exactly.
Good stuff. Well, we're going to get into some questions. I'm really looking forward to speaking about your career, Nikhil, and basically what takes you to Ireland. So we've got loads of questions, and it's a great story to tell. So maybe just to introduce you for all of our listeners from all over the world. So Nikhil Saboo is a singer, a dancer, an actor, a model, a songwriter, and many, many other things, cinematographer from Chicago. He graduated in music from New York University before making it on Broadway. Nikhil made his Broadway debut in the original Broadway cast of Mean Girls, the musical, which led to other work, including Saturday Night Live, the Thanksgiving Day Parade, and performing at the Tony Awards. So right up there at the top. Nikhil plays several roles, including that of Thomas Jefferson in the national tour of Hamilton, an American musical. So we are delighted that Nikhil is artist in residence with us this month, January 2021. So yeah, you're very, very welcome.
Oh my gosh. What's so funny is that usually when people like read your description of what you've done, you're always wondering like, are they going to say something that's wrong that I haven't done? Or are they going to like, I don't know why. I always get that feeling. But thank you. Oh my gosh, for the absolute warm welcome. And that is the sort of face of what I've done so far in my quick 27 years. It's definitely already been a journey. I mean, the things that you said from, going to NYU and graduating and really trying to find my way of, okay, we're now in the real world, and how that arc kind of took me to really trying to shoot for the stars and do it on Broadway. And being on Broadway, I should say first, was never a dream when I grew up. Music itself was something that wasn't a part of my life until later. So I think that's also within itself, just interesting to constantly develop this passion that sort of feels like it comes to me and I interact with it and stuff like that. Thrilling 2 years on Broadway with Mean Girls, and now currently in Hamilton. And yes, I do cover. I have 6 roles that I do. So I'm in the ensemble doing Man 5, and then I do Burr, Lafayette, Jefferson, Philip Lawrence, Hercules Mulligan, and the King. So my brain is just has every single word of Hamilton in it, just rattling everywhere. So yeah, that's what's going on. And now I'm here.
Woohoo! And on that, actually, you just mentioned this. You never expected to go on Broadway. You actually studied classical voice.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Did I think that I was going to be doing shows at the Met or some small new contemporary opera? Or actually, those were fleeting thoughts. At the moment, I remember when I was in school, singing had just started coming into my life. Just honestly, 2 years before I went to NYU to college is when I started taking voice lessons. And so I didn't get time to dream about it, I feel like. I didn't get time to sort of slightly materialize it in my head of where is the path that I want to go down. So it was interesting. I studied classical voice and opera studies at NYU in the Steinhardt School. And I remember going through that and not having a clear vision of what it all looked like or what it all meant, which, I mean, I don't really recommend that to people, but at the same time, I think that it allowed me to just be a sponge to everything that I did. It allowed me to approach this newfound passion with a blank canvas. So, but yeah, classical voice, but then I switched to musical theater.
So when did that switch happen?
I was doing my freshman year. I got cast in the main stage show, which was The Most Happy Fella, and I was in the ensemble for it. And the director of the program, who was directing the show, came up to me during rehearsal and says, "Do you want to be musical theater?" And I was like, "Huh?" And he was like, "I just think that you're too much of a dancer for your own good." And I was like, yeah, I would love to, but at the same time, I did want to be musical theater, and being in New York City, being around just for one semester, being around in that energy, I was like, oh my gosh, you could go up to go see a Broadway show after class or anything like that. I was just surrounded by it and dazzled. I was dazzled by it, and I said yes to also something that I didn't really know much about. So a constant yes and kind of dip into the next step of where my career kind of took me. So that's sort of how it happened. And then he literally dubbed me musical theater on the spot.
Then I went back to rehearsal.
Your major was classical music performance, wasn't it? It was opera.
Yeah, it was
vocal performance. I went to NYU, studied at Steinhardt School of whatever it's called. I studied vocal performance with a concentration. It's with classical voice and opera studies. But then I switched that to music theater. Yeah. It's it kind of just happened. We had that conversation and life kind of just turned to another degree, and that's. There's not much. I wish there could be more, but that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can talk about the different sort of techniques used and different things that sort of the process that your voices went through as you did all these different roles. But maybe we'll go back maybe to talk about what you're actually doing in Ireland and how has it been? What's it been like being here, and what took you here in the first place?
I'm going to start by. First of all, my friend and colleague, Paul Stovall, who you also will have another podcast with, and you'll hear about his story. I really do give almost all the credit to him for truly bringing me along with him. And it was sort of the first time in a long time where I said, this is going to be this is for me. I'm going to go on this journey with my friend, and I think now is a time to sort of do something for yourself a little bit in that way. But what brought us to Ireland, Paul is was introduced to the brilliance that is Frederick Douglass, and was sort of slated to write a 8-part limited series about Frederick Douglass. So that is sort of was the main pull to bring us to Ireland. And, we could have wrote it in Chicago, but what's the point in that? Why not go to where Frederick Douglass was and literally walk the streets that he walked? And oh my gosh, it has exploded everything to a whole different magnitude than we could ever think of. That's one of the things. We honestly wanted to write music here. Douglas Week is happening. That was a whole other thing that pulled us. That's happening in February in Cork. And things just continue to develop. And, when we got here, I'm not sure, when did we sort of finalize that we were coming here to Balbriggan? That was post or pre?
I think to Ireland. So the Douglas Week Festival, explain a little bit about Douglas for people who don't know, because he's an amazing character who has had an immense impact on America, on just American culture. But I think it was around November or so when you guys were on your way and you just arrived in Dublin on like the 1st of December or something. So it was kind of over the past sort of 2 months, really. It's all happened quite quickly. But I suppose things are just happening on a whim at the minute. It's hard to make any plans. Plans are falling through. But yeah, I mean, from our point of view, Douglas, we heard about the Douglas Week and we were going to be involved, which is next month, mid-February. And we were attracted to it just because of Douglas's legacy, his cultural impact. So Douglas was a former slave, a leading light in the abolitionist movement in the 19th century. And he was very, very famous because he was a freed person, a freeman. And he gained a lot of popularity, sort of almost as a celebrity, and became the most photographed person of the 19th century because of what was happening at the time and how big an industry slavery was. But he decided to come to Ireland. And I know that you've been kind of retracing his steps in a way.
Yeah, we definitely have. And, he wrote his autobiography in 1845, and it was an incendiary book. It took it by storm. And because of it, he got all these death threats. And he was, recommended to flee. And so he fled here and was only supposed to stay here for 4 days, but actually stayed here for 4 months. And we want to tell that story. Why did he stay here for 4 months? What did he learn? What was going through his head and everything like that? And it's incredible, everything that he did here. And we really are retracing his steps. It has been beautiful to kind of do that. And it's just saturated our story. So yeah, that is the chunk of why we are here in Ireland. But as you said, things start to change and mold. And also, I can't talk more about the amazing people that we've met here in Ireland, and how everyone just is so kind and communicative. And we wouldn't be here for all of this whole month if it wasn't for your kindness and graciousness and welcome and your hospitality. So
Well, as we mentioned, you are the artist in residence along with Paul. So you've been doing lots of creative projects, and we'll talk about a little bit of the songwriting stuff, because I know we've been working even last week on doing some recording and writing together. But a big part of what you wanted to bring to the residency was the education work.
Yes.
And we've been delivering online virtual workshops with yourself and Paul, speaking to some schools, and there's going to be almost 15 schools all across Ireland getting involved in that. So that's an immense part. And this residency, as we work with our artists in residence, we work to their forte and what they're into. And obviously a big part of what we do is our education and outreach work. So can you fill people in? I mean, you already have a big sort of a lot of experience with your music education stuff. So what have you been doing in these workshops online for school kids?
Yeah, well, I started doing them back in New York City, and being in the Broadway community, you kind of can easily get shuffled into teaching other kids. And I think it really, really clicked in my head that great. It's great to do a Broadway show. It's great to, do your big dreams, but what is the actual purpose? What are you doing this all for? And I had a conversation with myself saying, I want to engage and uplift and amplify voices that are, that are coming to the show, or that want to be an artist, or someone that just looks like me that doesn't have to be an artist, but to really, really engage, uplift, and amplify their voices, and their thoughts, and their, so that's sort of why I think music education and education in general is so important, and why I will always continue to do it. And then coming here, it's, we've done a couple master classes here, which have been so much fun. And it's really cool to, having taught classes back in the States, and having taught classes here, seeing similarities and differences, and what are they more in tune about, or what they really want to know, and stuff like that. Lots of similarities, and, but yeah, really, really enjoying. But that's, I hope to just continue to fulfill that actual purpose that I feel is so ingrained in me.
I have to say, Nikhil, having yourself and Paul here, and seeing you interact with the Irish students has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I guess something different is that in Ireland, if kids want to go off and go to West End or Broadway, they want to follow a career as a performer. Mm-hmm. In general, they have to leave the country. We don't have that West End, that Broadway, mm-hmm. or even, like what they have in Chicago. We don't have that kind of epicenter. Mm-hmm. So it's not very often they get a chance to meet people like yourself, people like Paul, who've actually come up through it. You've got the voice lessons, you've done the dance lessons. When you whatever age you were, your mom or your dad or whoever it was took you to whatever course you had to do. So it's been brilliant watching them ask you those questions and kind of dig into your journey and your story.
Oh yeah, and and I hope that sometimes the one takeaway that they have is that that we are just human to human. There isn't this vast gap between where I was as a high school or college student to who I became now. It really was a streamline. There's nothing that I had to jump this far thing to then, or I had to open this gate, then I finally busted open and became a Broadway star. That's not what, it never was that. And I have never felt that way either. And I think that these interactions, especially when you get to interact and talk and learn and converse and stuff like that, I hope it inspires them to know that there isn't much difference between you and I. We're all human, we're all colleagues, and we all want to work hard and do magical things. We want to create magic on this earth. We want to, as I said before, uplift and engage other people's minds and share parts of yourself to this world. What I can't think of a better feeling. I can't. No, that is just the most wonderful feeling. So I really hope that these master classes, that really pierces through, and I think it does. I think it does.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, seeing the questions that are coming through and the honesty of the answers, and just the fact that we've got schools all over Dublin, north side, south side. We've got schools from Northern Ireland, from Galway, from Cork. And this is just a testament to, I suppose, how universal these ideas are, and how, getting this exposure to people like yourselves who have been through it. And we'll talk about, the journey, I suppose, the path and all the things you learned along the way. And because the feedback from the school kids and the teachers as well, because we have to remember the context. Like, this is online, but it's not online by choice necessarily. We had organised a full sort of tour of all the schools at Balbriggan and the area, and going, bringing you guys school to school, door to door. But obviously people aren't at school at the minute and they're at home, but having events like that where they get to have, life-changing conversations, which I think a lot of these things are when we talk about these educational workshops, masterclasses, they do. I mean, they change people's minds, they change people's decisions, and then, that changes lives. So it's all the more poignant, I think, this month. And I suppose that takes us into like the work that we've been doing, writing songs together and putting, collaborating on things. And I suppose that's kind of just it's kind of just organic in that we're doing what we can, but that kind of makes every single thing a bit more unique and a bit more special. So tell us a little bit about the songs and the work that we're doing.
I wrote my first song in high school when I picked up the guitar. Slight backstory about that. I discovered I had a heart disease and I stopped all sports. I stopped everything. And it's after that I kind of brought myself back to earth a little bit. I picked up the guitar and that's when I started writing. But I wrote 3 songs. And then when I went to college, I locked it away. I was just busy and life and whatever. Even after college, I sort of locked it away. Being here, in Ireland, I've written, I think now 6 songs, and they're still developing and everything like that. But something about this place. Everyone in the world listening right now, there's something about Ireland that when you come here, you are just very much inspired. And I can't. I get lost in a melody. I get lost in where something can go. And I feel like something about Ireland and being here has unlocked something that I had closed off. The songs that we are writing, I'll go into that a little bit, is that we are writing songs inspired by Frederick Douglass in our time here. And I think that while we were researching him and everything like that, it really did come organically. And I was, I think the first song that Paul and I wrote together, I woke up, we were still sort of jet lagged, so I was still waking up at like 6 a.m. Lord, do I not do that ever now? But 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., I was playing in the living room and Paul walks in and all of a sudden he starts singing something. And we had been working tirelessly on the outline for this Frederick Douglass limited series. And it just was what was in our brains. It was just the words, and he came out there and he started writing something. Later that day we had a song, and then the next day we wrote another song, and the next day we wrote another song, and it just happened like that. And now to be here, to take all of that energy, to have this wonderful opportunity to come here in Balbriggan at the Irish Institute of Music, to have all of this, to have the square, to have the accommodations that we have, all of these things create such a solid bedrock for us to just continue growing all of that. It feels so fertile here for our ideas of music. So, I really do thank Ireland for bringing songwriting back into my life, truly. And haven't said this to you guys, and I should, but thank you for providing this fertile space for us to continue to grow that, and for me to continue to express this thing that has been sort of closed off for 15 years or something like that, so yeah.
We'll have to chop that up and send it on to the Irish Tourist Board there, Dónal.
Taking a note of that here.
Come to Ireland and you'll be inspired to write music. Listen, you said it there, you can't go back.
Oh, and my God.
Nikhil, the space you're in, so yourself and Paul, so a lot of people don't realise, part of the institute, we have luxury accommodation in an old Georgian house that was built in like 1750. So what's that like?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I FaceTime my parents and they're like, "What castle are you in?"
What beautiful,
first of all, this Georgian architecture is wonderful and it's scattered everywhere. I mean, for wherever I go, I'll if we're walking around, I'll be like, "Oh, Georgian architecture. Oh, Georgian architecture. I can see where it is." The living accommodation, come on, you have a beautiful kitchen, which because of my mom, I love to cook. And I'm having a field day every single day cooking in there. There's, a nice common area. There's a square, which has the piano and it just the lights and everything, you get to really, the sound just feels good in there. And then
I have slept like a baby in this deluxe bed.
I can't even tell you. I had the best sleep. There's a little Nespresso coffee machine, which I turn on every single morning. A little TV for me to watch my Orphan Black on Netflix. It is wonderful. It's I mean, and that's the thing is that, especially when you want to bring yourself to a place where you want to create and you want to, I mean, vulnerability is sort of the one word that's coming to my mind, but I want to be in a place where I can just kind of melt into myself. And I feel like the accommodations here, the space, the energy here, I sometimes walk over to that carved tree with all of and I just look at it and I'm just and I just kind of bring in that energy and I go back and I want to write something, it's like, it just feels like, I'll say it again, it feels like fertile land that is here. And yeah.
Accommodations are on point.
Good man, Nikhil. Yeah, that's the Cran Ceol. Some of the people who have been up and visited our campus during one of our open days, they would have seen it. So that was designed and created by a tree sculptor, one of the top tree sculptors in the world. He's competed in these competitions all over Ireland. John Hayes is his name, and he basically carves out of a tree, out of a single piece of wood. He carved this incredible artwork, and you can see it on our Facebook and Instagram. He actually, when he was filming it, we filmed him creating it, so you can actually see all the different stages of it. But he just has a chainsaw the length of his arm, and he just sort of looks at it, and he sort of holds up his finger, and he measures it, and then he just goes, and it
Some
cuts
might
off.
say he finds the sculptor inside the tree.
Uh-huh.
All he does is uncover the sculptor.
Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. So yeah, no, it's great that you're enjoying it. Obviously, it's an interesting time to be in Ireland, and I suppose it's an historic time. So forever it will have been historic. So it's just nice to be able to share something creative during this time. But we'll talk a little bit about even just more technique and sort of the musical end of things and how you've developed as a musician. But you were always into music, and you said you had to stop sports, so maybe that gravitated towards it. Sort of, you were pointed more towards performance. And was Mr. Estberg, was he a big part of that?
Mr. Estberg, ooh, you're gonna catch me in my feelings right now.
Mr. Estberg, he is the one that introduced music in a performing sense to me. My mother is the one who, she is like, I mean, all growing up, she is always singing, but it's Indian classical music. And so I think that's just where I got my ear was from her. And I should say dancing has always been a thing in my life. I never took a dance class in my life, but I would go into my basement, turn on a little bit of light and turn on NSYNC or something, and I would just freestyle in my basement. So do freestyle hip hop, that's what I would do. So I had that. I had my mom. I'd be watching Bollywood movies, which were what I thought were just oh my gosh, singing, dancing, love, and and it's great, and it's funny and it's dramatic and whatever. So I had that. So little pieces of the puzzle everywhere, scattered throughout my life. And then Mr. Estberg sort of came along, and he was my advisor in high school, and he just happened to be the assistant choir director. And my heart disease happened. I came back, and I remember I was volunteering at a program called NAMES program, which is for bullying and stuff like that. And I was sitting next to him. I said, "Hey, Mr. Estberg, how do I start singing?" I just asked him. I don't know. I actually don't remember where that trigger, where was it that I, wanted to ask that question. I actually forget, but I remember just asking him the question sort of on a whim. And he gave me my first song. He coached me through it, taught me it, and everything like that. I auditioned. He was like, "You should audition for the school play and also choir opera," which is one of the classes that they have at New Trier. And then I did that. I did the like really big school play that everyone wants to be in. And then also and that was my junior year. And then my senior year, I did
Les Mis, and I was Jean Valjean in Les Mis. Look, yes, this me as Jean Valjean.
And so it really was him who inspired and dropped that seed. He passed away early. He was very young when he passed away. After I had graduated, graduated college, and it was just around the time where Mean Girls, my Broadway debut, and all that good stuff was happening. And I devoted in my playbill, it says for Mr. Esberg. And it just felt right. It was about high school. And also, quick fun fact, but my high school, Mean Girls was based off of New Trier, my high school. So it was a weird full circle that my
Broadway debut.
You serious?
Yeah, on the North Shore. Yeah.
Glen Coco. I lived in Glen Coco, Illinois. Hearing it, I was so wild. It felt so, and I just will never forget that moment sitting next to him in that auditorium during that program, asking him, how do I start singing? And then that's where it all started, and it was full circle. So I really do owe it to him. Yeah, we can start there. That was actually a lot, but I think you wanted to talk about vocal technique.
Well, do you know what? It's amazing you talk about that, because so many people you've had on, people who are working in the arts, have had a cheerleader or multiple cheerleaders throughout their life. And
Yes.
Mr. Esberg was one of your mother was obviously one of your cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Esberg was one of your cheerleaders, and we don't, no matter what we are or what we think about ourselves, no one makes it on their own. If you're left on your own, really the ability to actually make it is very difficult. Along the way, almost everyone has someone who's helped them in some way, given them the confidence, or just
100%.
guided them towards the right place. And it is, and
100%.
it's important to acknowledge those people. They're really, really important, And sometimes they're
100%.
people that aren't obvious. Sometimes they're not the music teacher. They're the granny,
Oh my God! Of course.
whatever, or the friend.
Of course. I have this whole thing that I wish I learned sooner in my career, but was to really, really know your surroundings, know who your tribe members are, know those people who are your cheerleaders, know the people that really spark your curiosity and your creativity and your soul, and I think that Mr. Esberg is one of them. Obviously, my mom is one of them. I have several other tribe members that they spark me, and it's an exchange. I will do the same for them too. So I really agree with that. Yeah, those are those cheerleaders in your life.
For sure.
You talk about Mean Girls. So your school, let's to clarify this, because you said this on a whim and you're talking away there. So Mean Girls was based on your high school.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's going to be other high schools that be like, no, it's based off of us, but like, no, come on, look, they're literally like in the script.
And also, even in the show, one of the lines is that the competition is going to be in Winnetka this year. I live in Winnetka. My family lives in Winnetka, Illinois. The campus of New Trier is in Winnetka. Anyways,
Fight me on it.
but yeah, and I hope everyone gets that experience, but yes, that, but then also, so there was actually they were called the Sexy Slevin, 7 girls. Yep, it was before my time, but I really do hope that everyone finds a time where they can feel point A and point B, a circle where they felt, oh my gosh, these 2 points in my life are 100% connected. And however way you want to think of it, you don't have to think of it some crazy way. Just like when I was doing Mean Girls, high school me would be like, wait, what? Wait, you're going to be doing that? And then also it's a weird full circle that it's based off of your school. I can't.
So let's talk about like the experience of doing Mean Girls, being on Broadway. So you wake up in the morning and you go, I need water. My
I
voice
drank
is
some of this
busting
like juice, and it's like kind of in my throat right now.
out. So let's talk about that experience. What it's like to actually work on a Broadway show. Talk about Mean Girls. Why don't we do a typical day? Nikhil wakes up in the morning. He's had a wonderful night's sleep. And talk us through your day and the things that go through your head, and just give people the experience.
Being on Broadway, first of all, I have to say, is you become an athlete. You treat your body like an athlete. I would wake up. I usually would be sore because that's just the natural feeling. You're destroying your body every single night, especially on a show like Mean Girls. It is the movement is so aggressive and so low to the ground that we're jumping off of like trampoline couches, and all the choreography is like you're whipping your hand around and stuff like that. So really the morning is how I do is I assess my body. I wake up, drink a whole glass of water, do all those good things for your body, stretch out, hydrate, eat, give your body nutrients. But you know what? My Mean Girls experience, my things kind of exploded in such a good way. I was doing workshops and labs very, very often during my time in Mean Girls. So what would actually happen is I would probably wake up at 8 or 9 a.m. and I would have rehearsal for some other show that was being developed at 10 a.m. or 12 or whatever time it was being sort of my call time was. And usually those go until about 6. It's a full day. You obviously can be let out earlier, something like that. And then you have your show the half-hour call is at 7:30 for your 8 p.m. show. So, it was sort of nonstop. And I loved it. I loved doing 10 different things at once. I loved being able to, do these different shows and still do the same show at night. But I would literally go to a rehearsal of some sort, go up, maybe come back to my place for a little bit, but go back up, get a good meal, try and not eat all of it because I'm about to dance my face off. So I would eat half of it, go to the theater, warm up, get ready for the show, do my show. The show ends at 10:45, 11. You are wired at that point. And either you grab a drink with a friend afterwards, or you go back home, you roll out your body, you stretch and stuff like that. You watch a TV show, you play some video games or something like that, and you kind of do it all over again, But on those days that I wouldn't have anything, I would use it to hang out with friends or do something for myself, go get a massage,
You said grab a drink there with a friend. So how often would you say grab a drink, or how often would you be able to actually have an opportunity to go out? Because presumably the voice doesn't like being dehydrated, and the voice doesn't like lots of screaming after 12 o'clock at night into the early hours of the morning. So no.
It truly was if someone was visiting. And also, it was a brand new show, so people, their events were happening, parties were happening, this, that. So it was a lot of that, but I did have to be careful. I never lost my voice. I'm very thankful for my training or anything. I never ever time have I lost my voice or anything like that. But if you go to a concert or you go to live music, the vibrations of the music vibrate your vocal folds. And even though you're not saying anything, or even if you mouth words, your vocal folds start to move because they're thinking that they're about to make contact, or they want to produce sound. And that is not giving your voice a break. Also doing an entire show and then going dancing after that. That's not giving your whole body a break, which is definitely, I love to go out dancing. I love to do that. So that was definitely a thing I used to do.
And I would pay for it a little bit, but
but yeah, it really comes to a point where you have to be in tune with your body, just as an athlete. You have to treat your body like it is running a marathon every single night, because it is. I would start my show at 8 p.m. and I do not stop moving until 11. It's a 3-hour race every single night, you know, and it's Broadway. So you are expected to perform at the highest caliber. People are coming from all around the world to see the show, you know?
Yeah, I guess people don't realize that performers are like professional athletes. That it is, in order to sing at that level, you have to treat your voice like you would any other part of your body if you were an athlete.
It's a muscle. It is a muscle. I sometimes people are like, oh, my voice is just a thing that happens that I blow up. No, but it is a muscle. It truly is. Your vocal folds are 2 muscles, and you have to train them like they are your bicep and your quads. Like you have to, or at least I believe.
And did you find that you had to do different levels of training from, say, your classical training from NYU, and then when you were on Broadway, it's is it a different animal? Like, explain for our listeners, what's the difference?
Yes, I actually do think it's a different animal because, especially in school, when learning music, you learn to sing a line of music, a string of notes or something like that. And sometimes when you're in the ensemble of a show or you're rapping or anything like that, if it's Hamilton where you're going from spoken word to singing to blah to be, and then sometimes you have to use your voice aggressively because that's what it calls for, the emotion to use it. I think that you are using the voice in a different way to sing random harmonies that might be kind of awkward, and also you're doing a full out dance number. How do you're not standing with good posture, and really having diaphragmatic breath or anything like that. Like, no, like sometimes you're going at it and stuff, like it's like how do you maintain that? So it definitely is a different approach. I would say that training wise, how I produce the sound that I produce is very, very much rooted in training, because if it isn't, then I feel like you're going down a scary path. If I am using my chest to breathe, do I get time when I'm standing to really activate my diaphragm, or to remember to just lower my shoulders just a little bit so I'm not putting everything up in my throat? It's like, or can I do a small like snort to raise my soft palate before I go into this note that might be a little higher than, so these type of things that like I really do go back to my training, and I have to use it because, oh my gosh, people lose their voices all the time on Broadway because you're doing crazy stuff. You're literally doing an obstacle course while singing, and you don't really get trained to do that in college, especially if you're being taught classically. That doesn't happen. So I definitely did learn and have to create my own type of thing, but no, really, really stay with your training, and then you do have to adapt.
And is there a way you approach notes differently? So say you're singing an aria or you're singing an operatic work and you're coming up to a high G sharp or a high A, but then you say you're doing Hamilton and you've got to sing a high A. You approach those notes differently based on the style. Are there things you do? You change your vowels, you breathe differently?
100%, because the thing is that you're telling a different story. With that G sharp, I don't sing a G sharp when I sing a G sharp in, I don't know, Vaghissima Sembianza by Donati. Like, I don't even know if there's a G sharp in there. And there's one high note in it. But, when singing that is different than you sing the end of Room Where It Happens. It comes from a different place. The breath, the inspiration of that note comes from a different texture and tone and place from my whole body. And if I were to sing it perfectly resonant and everything like that, I mean, yeah, it would sound great, but am I telling the story that is true to me with that note, with how I'm singing it? So I hope it doesn't I hope people don't think that like, oh, screw your technique and sing the note from just the rawest place ever. Like, no. Your technique is something that no matter what happens, no matter what you sing, you can trust. It's always there. But I totally do think that when I sing a note in Hamilton, rather I sing an aria, it's a different breath. It comes from a different place.
It's amazing. It's amazing hearing you say that, because you're talking very intuitively about a process which is like people break down all the time. So you're talking about this different breath, and you're using the meaning of what you're saying and the style and how you want to say it to inform the breath subconsciously, instead of thinking, oh, I need to breathe this way in order to get this sound. You're going, what's the sound I want to create? And then you're letting that inform the breath, which is really, really interesting, because, a lot of technique people might go, okay, well, if you're singing music theater, maybe you'll use a bit more, chest in your breath. You'll expand your rib cage a bit more. You won't dig as deep. You won't go as low with the breath. And of course, that affects the position of the larynx, because if the lower breath will drop the larynx. But you're just talking on intuition and meaning, which is, I think, oftentimes singers of all ages get bogged down on the technique. You need to breathe. Your stomach needs to go this way. You need to be. Your posture needs to be perfect, and the bell needs to be this. What you're talking about. Well, what are you trying to say? Try to focus on the effect of what you're trying to say instead of focusing on the technique. And that's amazing for people to hear that.
And I think that after 4 years of training at NYU, I had to go through the process where I had to let go of that part of my brain that was so gripped to the fact that I need to sing every note perfectly, blah, 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 blah. And I remember hearing notes. I remember hearing recordings of the songs that I made in high school. And I was like, wow, even though my voice is healthier or I sing in a different way, I was storytelling there. And now I feel like after all this training, I still am storytelling, but I feel like I'm singing notes, and I'm not singing ideas, and I'm not, that exchange of myself to the outside world. I'm not doing that, which is what's the purpose of music and song if there isn't that, I think that I had to teach myself, let go. Truly let go. Not let go of training, but let go. Loosen your grip to the perfect everything and blah, 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 blah. And just actually trust yourself that the 4 years that you trained is inside you, is really in you. And maybe sometimes you need to, analyze a little bit or kind of go, think about an approach of a note or something like that. But at the same time, there's a lot of times now where I just believe that I do have my training and I can trust a note, and let's lean more into the storytelling of and trust that my technique is there. Obviously, if I'm like, I need to go back to the basics a little bit. So.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Nikhil. And just a reminder for all our listeners, we will be speaking to Nikhil and Paul together in a little bit more detail about some of the various projects they're doing. We'll talk a little bit more about vocal technique. We'll explore things again. But yeah, I just wanted to thank Nikhil and maybe finish with just the fact and the overall these stories and this career you've been building. And again, you're only 27, so this is, you're very much at the beginning of something. But you've already been carving out avenues for other South Asian artists. And I suppose that's something that maybe on Broadway you've seen visibly, tangibly. So maybe, give us an idea of what that's been like.
Yeah, that is my part of my purpose. And I'm so happy that I can say that. And obviously purpose develops and changes over time, but I'm glad to know that carving out spaces for other South Asian artists is part of my purpose. And every night that I would walk on that stage in Mean Girls, I don't know if there is another South Asian person in the audience or anything like that, but if there is another person of color or someone that just identifies, sees me and sees themselves, that fills my cup. I just, that's it, So, and also the thing is that when I was in school and when I was going to see Broadway shows, I never saw a person that looked like me on stage. And it wasn't until later where I saw one production of Groundhog Day. His name is Vishal Vaidya. I saw him in it, and he played multiple roles. Wonderful guy. And then I went to go see The Great Comet, which had this one woman. Her name is Shobha Narayanan, and she is fantastic. I've got to work with both of them post all of this, and I'm so grateful. But they are the two people that I saw on stage. I was like, you are the only two people? Wait, what? Like, how is this happening? So, and because the thing is that it really is something where we grew up, I should just say the South Asian diaspora, that this isn't a possibility. That I have to be a doctor, I have to be this, I have to blah, blah, blah. Like, and I thank my parents so much for allowing me to just go towards my dreams. I really do owe it to them. But the thing is that also you get discouraged when you go see a show and you don't see anyone that looks like you. And so I really, 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 really make it a point, especially after the show when I stage door. And Mean Girls, I stage doored every single night that I possibly could, because I wanted to go out and thank them for seeing the show, but then also I would be so happy when another South Asian person was in the audience, because first of all, South Asians, we don't necessarily go to Broadway shows. It's not part of our culture, that's a very, very general statement, but whenever I would see it, I would zone in on them. I would ask them questions. I would, what do you love doing? Blah, blah, blah. Do you like to sing? Blah, blah, whatever it is. And just encourage them. Again, I'm going to go back. Uplift, engage, and amplify whatever it's going in their minds. Because it's so important. It's so important. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if that wasn't a part of my journey. And I just want to douse every single other South Asian artist that is wanting to somehow go down this similar path as I just want to always extend my hand. Sorry, I shouldn't go backwards. I should go in any direction that they are. And I want to pull them with me, and let's all rise. Let's all go towards everything that we aspire to do. So that is such a part of my purpose. It's such a part of what I do. It's such a part of my artistry. And I truly don't need more than that to continue to do what I do today. So that's amazing.
So inspiring, Nikhil. Thank you so much. And again, we'll be talking to you again about a few different projects, so people can pop over to that podcast, that other episode right now if they like. So thanks again. And it's been emotional.
Nikhil has just got bikes, and so has Paul. We just delivered some bikes up to them. The dog just came in there, and they're going to go for a cycle around Balbriggan and Skerries. So
let's do it.
Lads.
Enjoy.
Make sure you wear your helmets
and reflective jackets.
Yeah, exactly.
Right
there. Say helmet on the back.
Yeah. All right. And all love, everyone. Live artfully. Truly. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Yep.